What's going on, Junkie Nation? Gorgeous George and Goes always deliver the big names. Today we get to talk to former Strike Force and UFC bantamweight champ Miesha Tate. Welcome back to the program, Miesha. You're less than 2 weeks away from going to Iowa. Have you ever been to Iowa? You excited?
I've never been to Iowa. But I feel like I'm severely underestimating it. I'm holding the bar really low.
Right.
And that's a good thing because I have a feeling it's going to exceed my expectations because I'm just expecting cornfields. So if it's anything better than that, it should be great. Either way, no matter where it is, it'd be a good place for a fist fight.
Well, I was thinking before you were Cupcake Tate, you were Takedown Tate. And I imagine every wrestler thinks about Iowa, Oklahoma, Penn State, like
Yep.
certain types of schools like that, I suppose. So yeah, I'm sure you're gonna like it. They put together a great card. You're facing Yana Santos, who recently spoke to our colleague Mike Bond, and she told him you were like an idol to her as she was coming up, and that you guys trained, and we saw that at Extreme Couture. But what was your relationship with her back in the day?
Oh gosh, I think we trained like once or twice and I don't remember super specifics because we were both in the UFC at the time. This was many years ago and it was kind of like one of those situations we were both in a pro practice and it was like situational. That's all I remember. And it was kind of like she was the last person and I was the last person, so we were like, okay, we'll kind of go with each other. But that was really it. Otherwise, nothing bad to say about Yana. I think when she first came to Extreme, she seemed very serious. And I was like, I think this is just a cultural thing. But she was always like nice enough. It's cool to hear. She's been really nice. Otherwise, I kind of, as I mentioned, I don't know if you guys heard this, but I kind of slid into her DMs to see if, she also wanted to fight me. Because I know she said she did before. And she was like, yes, I would love that. And I was like, this is perfect. We did the matchmaker's job for him. So we made his life really easy. You're welcome, Mick.
There you go. Okay, and then I remember last summer you were gracious enough to do an interview with us at the Virgin Hotel, which used to be the Hard Rock.
Yeah.
And around that time you were ready, but since then about 9 months has gone by. Has that been on you or on the matchmakers that things took a while for you to finally get your fight?
I'll take the blame for it. For sure. I think that when I gave them the green light, they did their best to make it happen as fast as possible. So, it's just been a few hiccups. It's just been life. It's been, mentally, I think I've been ready for a long time. But I have 2 kids. I have a lot of other things that are going on in life. Also have to, work through just getting back after a long layoff. I think I was really ambitious and all of that. And it just took me a little longer than I expected, but I'm ready now. And that's really all that matters. The rest is hindsight.
We say that with the accolades that you have, you're playing with house money. That's a Las Vegas term. Like, you've already accomplished the highest levels. So now I'm sure it's about having fun, maybe fighting certain people, stacking some paper before you call it quits. But before people start even asking you that question, it's like, how many fights do you have left on your contract? And do you even know how many more fights you want to fight?
Gosh, I'm not 100% sure. I think I have 2 fights left on my contract, maybe 3, but it's right in that number. I have no idea how many more fights I want. I know that I'm taking it one fight at a time. And as you mentioned, playing with house money, that's a great way to say it. This is just every opportunity that I have to fight now is something I'm looking to make the most out of. There's nothing left for me to prove to anyone else. This is all about proving to me how great I can be. And what a wonderful place to be. I don't have to put the pressure on myself. I've already been through the worst injuries. I've already been through the losses. I've already been through the highest highs, the lowest lows. This for me is about the evolution of Miesha Tate and what I can continue to do and perform and where I can go mentally, because I think my body will follow that. So it's a really fun place to be in my career. And I think that I'm capable of so much at this point. I love my coaches that I put together because you guys know that I struggled a lot when I lost Robert Follis, when he passed away, when he took his own life. It was hard on a lot of us. But it was really hard for me, and I didn't know how I could ever come back to fighting without having Robert. And I feel like God has blessed me with, amazing people. I don't know if that, that's guided by Robert or not, but I know he's with me in every single aspect of all of this that I'm doing. And I just feel like I've never been in a better place.
Miesha, one of the things that we enjoy when we speak to you is, we could talk X's and O's all day and your opponents and this and that, but we just have more fun, like kind of getting in your head a little bit and seeing the way you look at the sport. And so what I wanted to know was, anytime I've ever been around you, you're sort of the same person all the time, even in stressful situations. So being a mother and being a fighter, when you're in camp, is there like a different side of you? Do you change? Did it take time to figure that out, or are you just kind of the same person the whole way through?
Well, I think it's been a give and take situation. It's been a lot of ebb and flow, but I feel like I've been able to find my middle ground. Kind of the Goldilocks scenario. I feel like I was too hot and then I was too cold, and now I'm right there in the middle where I found that balance. So, I mean, I feel like there are nuances that change during camp. I do, my kids have to sacrifice, that's for sure. I'm definitely not as able to be as much of like a hands-on mom as I would like to be, but it's for a small portion of time. And I do think that as my children get older and they realize that, the sacrifice was always for the greater good, and, doesn't change my love for them, and like, we'll make up for lost time after the fight. But I think that has been my whole goal goes, and it's cool that you've picked up on that, and I really appreciate it. It's one of the greatest compliments, is because if being a mother has taught me so much about regulating emotions, I have to be constant so that I can be that rock for my children. But in that process, being a mother has taught me so much about how important it is to stay regulated, basically stay who you are and stay in your executive state of thinking, no matter what's going on around you, because that executive state of mind is always going to serve you better than just being reactionary or having, these big emotions come out that you can't control, and, these cortisol surges and everything. So I've worked really, really hard on being balanced in everything that I do. So I'm always working on that consistency.
When it comes to fighting, is overthinking kind of a thing that's difficult to get past? Because that you just kind of cleared something up, because we knew you guys were both in the same gym, but you haven't had very many situations where you've trained with her. But a lot of times when we do get that, we'll get fighters say, I spent too much time focusing on what my time has been training with that person. Are they going to be the same? Am I anticipating this, or are they going to try and throw me off? Sometimes fighters can overthink things. In your career, have you ever found yourself doing that? And is it hard to kind of regulate that?
I think I overthought things when I wasn't super confident. For example, when I fought Ronda, I knew that I didn't have the puzzle solved. I just didn't have the right input and the right like partners and everything to really feel confident that I understood how judo worked and how to like counter it. So it was kind of like I was just going in there with a lot of heart and a lot of tenacity. It's like, oh, I could just beat her with will, and it's like, well, sometimes it works that way, but if someone has will and skill, they're gonna win. And in those matchups, that's exactly what we saw. I went in there with my same heart and determination. I just didn't have the skill set at that time. So those are the moments when I'm like, oh, I'm not 100% sure. I know how bad I want this, but I just don't know how to get there. I don't know exactly how to do this. And I don't have that at this point in my career. I think I've developed, and I've like, I don't want to be in that place. And my gosh, my coach, Kirk White, is an absolute genius. He is so underrated. And I know he hasn't worked with many, if any MMA fighters really than myself. But he's just amazing. And he's gotten me back to what got me to the dance. And I feel like, having a good wrestling background and getting really in depth and learning more about that has made everything else that I do so much more dangerous, including my striking. So I'm just in a good place where I feel like I know what I'm capable of, and I know how to get there, and I know my routes. And I think the first example of that was when I fought Julia Avila. I mean, to this day, nobody in my entire career has fought a tougher, better, more prepared Miesha Tate than Julia, ever. It's just that I can't, you can watch from the outside and you guys will observe the way that you can from the outside, but you'll never know what I felt inside my heart and inside my mind in that fight, and the way that I was able to stay in that flow state and that middle ground, not too much, not too little, but just executing perfectly, confident. I knew exactly what I needed to do. I've never had anything align like that for me ever in my career before. So now I'm just excited to see how I can continue to build on that. And man, come May 3rd, it's just another opportunity for me to get in there and do that.
We've heard a lot of fighters. A question I used to pose to them was, if we were to look up and down your record, which version of you would you know that if that one showed up, you would just absolutely dominate? And sometimes fighters say they can't even remember how they got to that state. It's like a flow state like you've spoken about. And I've heard singers talk about that in concerts in certain moments that just can't be replicated.
Yeah.
But another aspect of your career that we've really enjoyed is just analysis. Even when you've come in the studio and we've just kind of hung out and talked about sport, or where you've done it on the desk before. What about that, Miesha? Are we going to see any more of that? And how much have you learned from doing that?
Well, no, he probably won't, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. I didn't enjoy how much homework that was for me. I'm definitely more of a doer than I am a watcher. So I like to go out and do the sport. And I enjoy supporting my friends. I don't enjoy doing homework and studying. I don't have one of those encyclopedia type brains where fights just stay in my memory forever. I don't have that. So it's a lot of work for me every single fight, every single card. And I didn't love that. So probably not, but we'll see what the future does hold. I don't think it'll be behind the desk, but you'll see me around for sure. But obviously I don't have, forever left to fight. I feel like I'm here for a good time, not a long time right now. So I don't know. We'll probably find out, in the next couple of years.
Can I pick your brain on one thing?
Sure.
Okay. Amanda Nunes. She may be coming back to mixed martial arts, and she's always stood out as a special person in our sport. But we've heard even the best fighters say ring rust is a thing, going away is a thing, the mentality, all that stuff. Do you think maybe she's one of those fighters that can just circumvent all that and come back and it's like she never left? Because that can be a difficult thing on fighters, right? What do you think of that?
Dude, I think there is absolutely no way to predict that. I know that she's one of the greatest women, if not the greatest of all time. And she would, in what she's capable of, without a doubt, I'm 100% sure she comes back and competes fine in the division. Now, whether she's as sharp as she was when she was at the very top, I don't know. I mean, that's just hard to say. There are so many factors that go into that. I don't know how much she's trained since she's been gone. But look, I left for 4.5 years. I had 2 children. And then I came back, and I fought a game, Mario Renault, and I got a great finish and I felt amazing. And then I, lost a couple fights, and then it was a little bit challenging to like get everything back and, figuring out, because when I'm making this about me again, but I guess it's my interview, right? But in the first part of my career, I had a lot of adversity, and that's what kind of drove me. And then in the second part of my career, I didn't have that same adversity. So I hadn't really figured out what to replace the adversity with to drive me when you're playing with house money, when you don't need it. Mm-hmm. You don't need the money. You don't need the fame. You don't need any of it. You're just doing it because. And so, I got a little bit I don't want to say sleeping in silk sheets, because it's not that I didn't want it. I just didn't, again, know exactly how to get there. So point in case, I have to only draw on my scenario. And for me, it was kind of a little bit of figuring it out once I left and came back. But everybody's different. I saw Dominic Cruz go on he was on a long layoff. He had knee surgery and he came back, and who do you fight? But I mean, he absolutely,
Mizugaki.
Yes, was a savage. And I mean, he just killed it. And I was I was blown away. I mean, so there's all ends of the spectrum. There's really no way to tell. And that's one of the most exciting things about this is that we don't know for sure. So we have all these questions that we wouldn't otherwise have if she hadn't been retired. And, you know, what has she been doing? And is she still as great as she ever was? So it's really cool that she's coming back. And I definitely look forward to seeing her face, whoever the winner is of Juliana and Kayla.
Are you still in Vegas, by the way?
Yeah, still in Vegas.
You know, with the WWE in town, if they did something last minute, like pulled up in a limo with a bag and it had the money sign on it and said, "Hey, we're doing a women's Royal Rumble. We heard you're in shape. Would you step in last minute?" And it was a good size bag. Could you go out there and just do it, you know, with the wrestling that you know from high school and the wrestling that you know from you know, training and all that, and just
I mean, I certainly think so. And that doesn't mean that I wouldn't be better if I understood it better and, you know, prepared for it. But if they showed up and the money was right and I had the opportunity, I would go out there with no shame in my game and I would do the very best that I could. And I'd go for it. I just I don't fear failure anymore. I don't fear like being in front of people and, you know, not being the best. But because I'm going to try my best, you know, and I kind of I like not always being right. And I like failing sometimes or realizing like I could get better at this. Like my first day of wrestling practice when I was a freshman in high school, which by the way, my wrestling coach, we had not spoken in over 20 years. And I just haven't
that.
The Built for Growth podcast. It just dropped. So you guys might want to listen to that because some really interesting parts. But anyways, I got my ass kicked that first practice and it didn't feel like anybody gave, you know, a care that I was there and actually were maybe proactively trying to get me to leave. Man, I failed hard for a long time and I just didn't learn, you know, but I did learn at the end of the day. I learned that I'm capable and I'm strong. And, you know, I so many things about my character that maybe I wouldn't have uncovered at such a young age, at a pivotal age. And so, yeah, to answer your question very long-windedly, I like jumping in with both feet and I like just trying. You remember that movie too? What was the movie that we did with Holly and I should remember this. My character was Jabs.
Oh yeah.
Fight Valley.
Mm-hmm.
I had no acting experience. I just jumped in. It was like, let's do it. Like, what do I have to lose? So, hell yeah, I would definitely do it. I'm always game for a challenge.
I've been wondering if any MMA fighters or Las Vegas celebs were kind of on hold or, you know, because the WWE always has surprises, things up their sleeves. So I've been wondering, like, if we're going to see something out of the MMA world. Now TKO has the WWE and the UFC kind of, you know, crossing over and things like that. I'm not the biggest WWE fan, but I'll be tuning into WrestleMania and seeing what kind of wrinkles they throw at us.
Yeah.
I think you'd do good, like, in a Royal Rumble, because obviously you have the cardio. So, you know, they wouldn't just put you out there, then you get thrown over the ring and your time's done after 90 seconds. I think you could go out there and give us a good 20 minutes, and it'd probably be fun for you because those lumps are real lumps, the ones you take over at Extreme Couture.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, what? There's nothing harder than getting into a full contact fist fight. So anything after that is just fun. So I would go out there and I'd have fun. I'd play and I'd make it real and I'd leave it all on my sleeve.
I did see that what you were talking about for your podcast. I'm glad you plugged it. We were gonna plug it, but when I first saw it, I thought it was Scott Van Pelt from ESPN. I don't know if you know who that is, but that's who her high school coach looks like. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I saw what you wrote, that toughened you up, and it probably paved the road for the success you had later on in life. So, but I found out there that it was 20 years that you guys hadn't connected. So that was really, really cool. Kind of like a full circle moment. I recommend that. She's got a really, really great Instagram. She's got one of these. Some guy's flying around with one of these attached to his plane, and he's doing, one of those daredevil performers. And then she'll teach you a little bit about the sauna game. I know a lot of junkie listeners, including Kella from Hawaii, loves his sauna. And apparently you can get good at sweating from sweating. So
who would have thought?
You're dropping a lot of knowledge on us.
Yeah, you can learn to sweat better. It's awesome. And I mean, you know, anecdotally, this happens every single training camp that I go into. The more that I go into the sauna and I condition myself and I get those heat shock proteins, the more that I sweat, which is a great detox if you're using it for nothing else. But obviously, I have to be really proficient at sweating so that I can get the weight off. And I thought forever as a, you know, I was a woman and I just didn't sweat well. But I avoided the sauna like the plague because I had a couple really terrible weight cuts early in my career when I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And my coaches would like lock me in the sauna and I'm like laying on the ground, like breathing through the crack at the bottom of the door. And so I was like, no more sauna for me ever. But now I'm smarter. I'm smarter than I once was. So that's the good news.
Just to clarify something you said, are you not interested in announcing, because fighting ties up a lot of your time, being a mom ties up a lot of your time, therefore you would maybe not be as good as you can be on the desk? But what about once you retire and that time's cleared up, then are you interested? Because I remember you back in the day at Invicta, not only were you good at it, you looked like you had a lot of fun doing it. I think it was you, King Mo, Mauro Ranallo, or some combo like that. It was, you know, you guys did great.
You know, it is fun, but if I had to like do it with the UFC desk and travel potentially every weekend or every other weekend. So I was talking to Michelle Gomez Watterson, and she was like, look, I retired so I could have more time with my family. And she's like, now working the desk, she's like, I'm busier now than I was in fighting. So, I mean, there's a lot of work that has to go into that. I have a ton of respect for the people who work the desk, but I just don't see myself doing it on a regular basis. Maybe every once in a while, you know, a fill in, whatever, but no, full time. I've got a taste of it. When I worked on Fox, I worked behind the desk. I've, you know, done analyst work with Invicta, as you mentioned. And I'm just like, you know what? This just isn't really my jam. It's fun, but it's also a lot of work. Like you have to be on the camera so you guys see it, you know what's, you know, on and what looks fun, but like the hours of work and the preparation and the flying and the travel is like, I got small kids and I want to be here. I want to be with them. I don't think there's any more important job that God has given me than to be a mom. So that's got to be first and foremost. And, you know, I've busted my butt to set myself up good financially. You know, I'm in a good spot. So nothing is needed at this point. And I just, I don't see myself doing it full time.
Just to wrap up, you mentioned two names. You mentioned Rhonda earlier and Holly earlier. Have you run into them a lot in the last 10, 15 years since you fought them both? And if you have, what's that been like?
I don't think I've ever seen Rhonda again since we fought. I don't think we've been in the same room, at least if we were. I don't recall it. And yeah,
Holly, you did the movie, right?
Well, with Holly, yeah. But I was talking about Rhonda.
No, I know. And with Holly, you did the movie, so you have seen her, right?
Well, the movie was before we fought.
Oh, okay.
It was a long time ago, so it was before we fought. Actually, what was funny is in the movie, if you watch our fight scene, there was a time when I had her back and she like stood up and flipped me over, just like how we did in the fight. And it was so funny because you could swear that we choreographed this into the fight. A lot of people were like, that they planned, you know, this is planned. I was like, it was not planned. It just happened that way. But yeah, Holly, I've seen Holly around. Holly's really cool. I helped to get her a paid appearance, like, because sometimes people reach out to me and are, you know, friends of mine, like, hey, you know anybody who can come out? And I'm like, Holly's just great. I just think she's a phenomenal person. I'm sad that she's out of the UFC. I wanted that fight. It's actually what I would have liked. But I'm happy I'm fighting Yana. It's like set on that. I'm just bummed I missed the window with a Holly rematch.
Why did you want it? You won.
Yeah, it's just a chip on my shoulder that people think I narrowly won by a Hail Mary. I didn't see it that way at all. I know that she won 3 rounds, but by point scoring me. There was literally no damage done to me in the fight at all. And in the second round, I took her down and it was a 10-8 round. I dominated the round from bell to bell. So going into the 5th round, if I won that round, it was a draw.
Okay.
People think back and like, oh, she was getting her ass kicked, and you know, she's so lucky that she got. I'm like, let me get this straight. Facts. I was not getting my ass kicked. I was getting outpointed narrowly, in my opinion. I was getting outpointed. I'll give her the rounds 1, 3, and 4. I'll give it to her. I'm not arguing that. But I dominated round 2. I dropped heavy elbows. I attempted submissions. And in the third round, I got a fairly early, like minute and a half, I think, takedown, and was on my way to definitely winning that round, which would have been a draw. Wouldn't have been enough to get me the belt. So yes, I needed to finish the fight in order for legacy purposes. This still makes me mad that people think that they just recall it as like, I won comeback of the year. I think that's ridiculous.
It's one of the greatest comebacks ever, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, yes, but no. Like, comeback of the year is usually somebody who is like on death's door, and like like wheel them out of there, like they're almost knocked out, they're bloody, they're just like, you think that there's no way that they could lift a finger to fight, and then somehow they come back and they win, and you're like, how is that possible? Like, this person looked like they were done. I never looked like I was done in that fight. So
right.
I mean,
I agree with that.
Right. So
I just went because of the significance of it happening in the 5th round. Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, like, that was like the award was weird to accept, because I'm like, yeah, I needed to finish it, but I was never like getting demolished.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's kind of, yeah. So anyways, that's why I wanted the rematch. I wanted to settle that and just dominate, you know?
Yeah. All right. Well, we look forward to, what is it called? Their UFC on ESPN 67. They got the formality of it all. So you will be on ESPN against Yana Santos. So, folks, that's formerly Yana Kunitskaya, who married former UFC middleweight Thiago Santos. That's her. And she's fighting Miesha Tate. And we are looking forward to it. And Miesha, always great catching up with you. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you, guys.